Welcome, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order. This is the first work session of the year, January 3, 2022. Please stand for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, can you take a roll for us, please? Councilman Scaringi,
Present.
Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Strong. Present. Mr. President, that's all 7 here. Thank you. Okay, we'll get right into it. Do we have Mr. Pearsall out there?
Good evening. I have Ed Crum with me and Elliot Wagner, superintendent and board member. We have 3 RLs before you tonight. They're all related to staffing. And I believe I have them as you have them. The first one concerns reshuffling our rosters to increase the operator 1 trainees by 3 and 1 mechanics assistant. And to do that, we're looking to defund 1 operator 2 and 2 operator 3 positions.
1 operator 3, 2 operator 2s.
Uh-oh, I have been corrected. We are defunding.
1 operator 3,
We are defunding 1 operator 3 and 2 operator 2s. I think it was correct in the detail, but I must have had a change on the sheet. This is it. Yeah. This actually is a savings on the personal services salary line and the corresponding state retirement, social security, workers' compensation, overhead type lines. And we are looking to move that funding into the contingency line.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pearsall or the other the board members that are there? Councilwoman Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Thank you, Mr. President. Hello. I just want to make sure that the actual legislation has the operator 1 and operator 2 correct, because the title of the legislation is reversed, where the legislation that I'm looking at says decrease the apportionment for 1 operator 2 and 2 operator 3s, and that's reversed, correct?
Yes, that
Okay.
and my sheet is incorrect. I apologize for that.
That's okay, but so then the title is reversed, and I just want to make sure that the actual budget transfers, are those correct?
Yes, the detail sheet with the dollars on it is correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Pearsall and the other gentlemen down there? Go
For
ahead.
each of these, we do ask for all 3 of these that they be expedited. We have applications in-house, thankfully enough, at the lower levels. So the second one is to create a new position for an electrician's helper by defunding 1 electrician position Again, this results in a savings that will be transferred into the contingency line.
This new title has already been approved by the Civil Service Commission.
Yes, it is. Yes, we have a job description all prepared.
Sure.
Okay.
I see a hand.
Was that what? Go ahead, Councilwoman Freeman. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, so I did have a question about this one. If there's okay, sorry. You said that you had applications that were already in for this new position, the electrician's helper.
We did get one today.
Okay, and this has been the switch is because you have no applicants thus far who are qualified to be an electrician, but the applicants that have applied for the position would be qualified for the electrician's helper position. Is that why this switch is being made?
Yes.
Okay. And how would the responsibilities differ between the electrician's helper and the electrician?
The biggest responsibility and qualifier is the fact that a journeyman's license will not be required.
And is that a liability in any way that someone who is
No.
not licensed would be performing a lot of the same tasks that someone who normally would have a license be performing?
No, it would be working under the direct supervision of a journeyman, a master electrician, or an electrical engineer.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
The third one relates to a position that had been vacant all of last year. The CMMS clerk, we would like to increase that line. Well, this one is a use of funds to be taken from contingency. When we were going through the negotiations, that being a vacant position was not boosted with the raise that the rest of the union received. This created a compression. We wanted to have this person be paid a little more than a mechanic because it's sort of an overvisory position. Their responsibilities are going to be to make sure the mechanics are filling out the work orders, and we see this as having more responsibility. So we are asking that this be boosted to $30.19. Any questions? There it is.
Anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead, Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you. Yes, I have one more question. So this seems, this was, you said unfilled all of last year?
Yes.
So
No.
Well, it wasn't in the budget at all. This is a new position. So it was designed on the 2021 budget. There was no position in it. So as the increases that were negotiated late in the year increased everybody else for 2022, this one didn't move along with it because it was non-position. We couldn't do anything with it till the beginning of 2022 because it's 2022 budget.
Right. Okay. So it says the CMMS clerk at full experienced rate. That's referring only to the rate of pay and not
Yeah.
the position itself of an experienced person.
Yeah, if it had been a totally off the street hourly person starting, they start at $4 an hour less. So this gives us the ability to hire somebody fully trained and qualified at the full position.
Okay, thank you.
And to clarify, this was a new title approved at the last Civil Service Commission meeting upon presentation by Ed Crum.
Councilman Scringy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, Charlie. Hey, Ed, how are you?
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I just had a question, Charlie. I know you had mentioned a little earlier that you have some internal applicants for some of these new positions. Is that correct?
Yes,
And external.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
one internal and several external. So
Yeah, no, that's great if you have someone internal. I think that's really good. My question was just simply going to be, at least for that singular position that you're saying that there is an internal applicant. If that internal applicant is hypothetically hired into that new position, does the old position, is that one of the proposed defunded ones? Or would that create an additional vacuum with now that position then being vacant? Because an internal person, forgive me, moved to a different position.
Councilman Scaringi, this is Elliot Wagner.
Hey, Elliot, how are you? Happy New Year.
So what this would do, yes, that person is a mechanic. That would open up the funding of a mechanic, which we were going to ask to create a mechanic's assistant, another mechanic's assistant, because we want to maintain the maintenance of the new equipment. This is the best way to do this. The present mechanic's assistants are not qualified yet. They don't have the time in to become a mechanic. So this is a more cost-effective way for us to fill this position, train them in-house. This is another in-house position. As an operator trainee has applied for this position. He's going to be a great candidate. Has been working here for over a year, but that would create another position, operator trainee position, which we don't have a problem hiring operator trainees. All told, it looks like it would be 4 operator trainees we'd be able to hire. The rest of them would be from within.
Excellent. No, that's great. I appreciate that, Elliot. Just so we had clarification on that and that there's a plan for that. So that sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, any other questions for the team down at the sewer plant? Which item did they ask be expedited?
all three, if possible.
I thought it was all 3.
Okay. Okay,
Understand the mechanics assistant position that's created has to wait until the next pay period, so we don't defund a position that's filled.
The numbers are presented based on that.
Yeah, we did calculate, or Ed actually did the calculations based on a January 8th period. So that's why we're asking this to be expedited,
Except for,
except for
The mechanics assistant. So we can't defund a position that is occupied. If we choose to hire the person from within, we have to wait till he actually accepts the position and his qualifications are accepted by civil service. So that gives us a couple of weeks. If we defund on I believe it's January 22nd, that position. That would give everyone enough time. To allow that person to transition. We'd be without a mechanic's assistant for 2 weeks, basically.
That's the bottom half of the chart on page 3. You'll see it says minus 24 pay periods only, whereas the other ones involve 25 pay periods.
Just to
Okay.
note for city council's information, this is Sharon. These positions need to be posted for 10 days prior to hire, which I imagine is one of the reasons why the people sitting before you are requesting that it be expedited. In fairness to the city clerk's office, they are short-staffed this week, so they will use their best efforts if council agrees to expedite them. However, I'm not sure due to the 24-hour posting requirement for the RLs as established by open meetings law, if they can meet that. I'm sure that they will use their best efforts to do so if council wishes them to do it.
Okay, thanks, Sharon. Okay, everything was in good order here. You got this stuff in on time, so we'll allow that to be expedited if it's according. And you were able to explain it well, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that, so we at least understood what that was. So we will go ahead and add that to Wednesday's agenda for the business meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for the crew down there? Okay, thanks guys for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Shager. He's refused to come up to the main desk, so we're going to remove the mic for next time, so he can't sit over there. But we'll get this thing moving, and we'll go. So go ahead, Mr. Shager.
The first one is 2204. It's to amend the 2021 sewer budget. This is to cover the cost of the 2 individuals that are doing the administrative work on closing out the joint sewage treatment plant project. This one, I'm moving $2,200 into the personal service line and professional service line. One's 800, one's 1,400, and I'm taking it from the serial bond interest that was not spent last year. Any questions?
Councilman Riley, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Council President. So we are amending the budget to pay a contract employee whose contract ended or is ending.
I'm asking for it in the next RL to extend it through the end of January. It's with a local agency.
Thank you for that clarification.
The next RL is 2205. It's to amend the 22 budget, where these people were not part of the budget when we did it back in September. We were hopeful that this project would be done and over with. That is not the case. At this point, I believe there's a total of about 9 invoices to be paid, plus 2 sets of retainage, and then get all the documents put away so we can file them for any future use. The goal is to get everything completed by the end of January. And this is estimated to cost $3,500 in personal services, $2,800 in professional services. And I'm taking this out of the joint sewer fund balance. I shouldn't say it's not joint sewer, it's the sewer fund balance. I'm sorry, that's miswritten on there. And basically half of this will get reimbursed to us in the final bill at the end of 22. Any questions?
Councilwoman Riley, go ahead.
Yes, so again, Chuck, the documentation submitted it leaves much to be desired. Can you tell us what project and what agency or what this is related to?
This is related to the sewage treatment plant project. Finishing out all the final payments, getting all the documentation finalized.
So there were several projects and several agencies finishing up, correct?
No, there's 3 contracts that we are still finalizing. PC
Okay.
Construction, Matco Electric, and Quandel.
And so these transfers are comprehensive and will allow us to finish our contracts with all 3 agencies.
Allow us to pay all 3 agencies and get all the documentation finalized and stored away in a right order.
And we don't foresee any future issues.
What do you mean by that?
So there's not another bill that may come because they've pretty much submitted all the bills that were required for the ending of the project. They're not still working.
There is a company called Streeter that is still doing work, okay, that we're waiting for some, what do they call them, caps to go over some things that it's hopeful that will be done by the end of January.
And we have enough in our budget to cover that estimate and.
Yes, yes. We have
Okay.
enough money in the budget to pay everything that we're aware of on this project.
Thank you.
The next RL is 2206. This is to amend the 21 fire budget for ARPA funds allocated to fire essential workers. Basically, when I submitted this to you back in probably October, November time period, I estimated an extra $563.90 of ARPA funds to pay out to the firemen for the essential workers. I'm returning that money into the ARPA fund, going back to it, so we could spend it someplace else in the future. Any questions?
Councilwoman Freeman, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Hi, Chuck, how are you?
Good.
Okay, I have a question because both of those lines are labeled decrease. So the first one, federal aid ARPA, that should be increase.
No, they're both decreases. We're decreasing an expense and then we're decreasing a revenue.
Oh, I see. So what, decreasing the federal aid ARPA line, that's an expense line, and decreasing the fire wages ARPA, which is a
You got it the opposite. The
opposite.
bottom one is wages. We're decreasing what we're paying the fire department in ARPA money. And we're decreasing the revenue account that we would get money from ARPA funds.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you. So Mr. Shager, so what happened that we have this overage?
I believe what happened is when I was doing the calculation, there's only a maximum amount of money that someone can earn in ARPA funds. And someone was over it by $563. So I had to reduce the ARPA usage.
Okay. So all of everyone that was eligible, we've accounted for everyone that is eligible based upon the guidelines we walked through several council sessions ago.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
To take that to another statement for you, everyone that you've approved ARPA funds for essential workers were paid out before the end of this past year. Everyone was paid by 12/31. Going to RL 2207. This is amend the 21 finance budget. I've had a temporary person on board for the last 4 months, and when I estimated her salary, we're going to be over it by $400. So I'm moving money from my overtime line, from my office equipment line, from my office supplies to put it into the temporary service line of $400. Any questions on that one?
Councilman Scarngi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hey, Chuck, how are you?
Good.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know they're not large amounts, but considering that this is the 2021 budget, do you fear or feel that taking money out of any of those lines is going to impact the closing of the 2021 books for your budget or impact any other expenditures? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
We have, I just want to make a note. We do have one more. There's a packet of RLs that was in last week that, that did get caught between administrations. I spoke with the clerk and President Resinetti early this afternoon, so we wanted to let Chuck do this. We mentioned, like I said, I mentioned to the mayor, we're try to tidy these things up a little bit, but if you'll notice, Mayor Cram did sign this one, so this one came in between and kind of got lost in the shuffle. So I think all things considered, if that's the only one that happened as a transfer of administrations, that's probably not too bad. So this is RL 2208. I think they sent it down. Hopefully everybody got the email. So go ahead, Chuck.
What 2208 is an RL to take care of 2 temporary positions that were not part of the budget. The first one is covering our former corp counsel to bring him on part-time for hopefully 6 weeks. We're going to fund a temporary line for him and move that money from contingency. And the other one is related to my department. Last year, actually in 20 and 21, I defunded a full-time clerk position. During last year, I lost an assistant comptroller, a payroll person who went to purchasing, and the person that then took over payroll, she left us and went to another local business. So right now, I have 3 people still learning their positions, and I brought back one of the ladies that retired to assist me in training all these people because she understands the whole department, and she's willing to stay on for this year and work as I need her. I'm anticipating 1 or 2 days during the year per week. That's going to vary. Some weeks she won't be here at all. Other weeks she'll may be here for all 5 days if someone's on vacation to cover it. But it makes my department a lot stronger, and things will get more accomplished on a regular basis with less problems. And I put in $20,000 and I'm taking that out of contingency.
Councilman Friedman, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to clarify, this is one piece of legislation that has the temporary services for finance for $20,000 and the personal services for law for $5,000. That's together.
We've done it that way in the past. It could be 2 pieces of legislation if you wanted to, but it could be because we're taking the money out of contingency and putting it into 2 different departments.
Oh, no, that's fine with me. It sounded like there was 2 pieces, so I wanted to make sure because I'm only looking at one. I wanted to make sure I have all the documents. Thanks.
Any other questions for Chuck, please, as he's down here?
Since he's down there and would never say so, I'm sorry, Councilman Riley. Chuck and his department, while short-staffed, engage in a Herculean effort to ensure that our essential workers were paid based off of all of the contracts, and to try and reconcile the budget, which obviously you'll see continue pieces of legislation going forward in 2022 at the beginning of the year, as is everything, but particularly with the change of administration. I really wanted to acknowledge Chuck and the finance department's efforts during this time. So thank you so much, Chuck, and to your team, and to the former employee who is retired, who comes back to assist us. She is glorious, and she assists the law department as well. And so thank you. Thank yous are due all around.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Well,
Yeah, I would
well
concur
done.
with that. And I know, at least from what I do during the day, any of these ARPA federal funds, COVID things adds a whole nother element of reporting and things that you have to do. That's not, that's definitely not something you're used to on a regular basis. So we do appreciate that and want to keep up with all those things. So thank you, Sharon, for bringing that up. So Councilwoman Riley, go ahead. Not quite yet, Chuck.
Yes, no, stay there, Chuck Shaker. Okay, so as you know, you did send the end of year report, which we were all greatly, well, I'm going to speak for everyone. I'll take that authority, that we were very glad and very excited to review at the end of the year. So please clarify for me. Unassigned fund balance and contingency, are those the same? Is that the same line?
No,
Okay, just so everyone is aware, if you see the line unassigned fund balance, that does not mean that's what's in our contingency fund, right? That has a different line number, right?
that's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because again, when we say of this unassigned fund balance, what percent, how much do we have in contingency?
Not very much, probably 50,000.
Okay, and do you know that line number by heart?
I don't.
Okay, but it's somewhere, we can pull it easily,
Yes, it's in the budget.
right? Okay, but not on this end of year budget report.
No, it's not on the balance sheet. It's in the budget. I think it's A1990 or A1910, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
Okay, and then if we wanted to, this is when we would go into discussions about, I mean, not now, of course, but how we would appropriate some of the unrestricteds back into different organizations as we start to look at fund transfers throughout the year, right?
Hopefully we don't, but
we could, because that was that great webinar you sent to all of us. So again, I thank you for that. And thank you for sending the information. Have a good evening.
Actually, I will say there is an RL that I dropped off today that will be moving, I think, 720,000 out of the unrestricted fund balance for a FEMA project.
It's for next work session?
Yes, yes.
Okay. We look
It's
forward.
basically to take care of some projects on the east side of businesses and places that have been damaged multiple times with flooding.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Shager? Okay, we have some pending legislation. Mr.
Yes.
Clerk, tell us about that, or I guess we can see it for ourselves. So how do you usually do that?
There's 3 items here. One is for protective clothing at joint sewer. And then the other 2 have to do with the YWCA childcare facility that we spoke about 2 weeks ago. Any questions on those?
Okay. So we will wrap it up. Can I take I'll take a motion to adjourn the work session for tonight.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
No,
Second.
second.
Okay, we are adjourned. We'll see everybody Wednesday.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Night.